Eli Birnbaum, tell us what's happening with Jews for Jesus there in Tel Aviv, especially since the bombs started falling.
Yeah, so last Friday, we've been since Israel did a preemptive strike on Israel, we've been under attack. I've spent every single night sleeping in the bomb shelter. And I'm right now in the bomb shelter that you helped donate for. And so if missiles fall right now, I'm safe. And it can happen. It usually starts happening around 9 or throughout the night. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with for the last 9 days. So that's where we've been experiencing all throughout every night. Fortunately, I've been able to sleep in the bomb shelter with my family. But what we wanted to do is, how do we respond to that? And one of the first things we did is we bought some sandwiches in the middle of the night, and we went to the fall sites of the direct missiles, because the Iron Dome can keep about 95% of the missiles out of harm's way, but 5%, and it's had devastating damages of buildings. People have lost their homes. And so we've been able to take a team, go out to these sites. And because most people obey the guidelines by the Home Front Command, even in our own building, we go into the bomb shelter and we wait out 10 minutes until the missile comes. Most of the people are safe and they're not hurt, even though we've had 24 people die since the attacks began. But some of them lose their house is no longer there, and their lives are saved because of the bomb shelter. But they've lost their homes. So we're able to give them a sandwich, a cold drink, and we find out where the city is taking them. And we've been able to provide care packages, essential care packages, for every person who's lost their homes, with pajamas, underwear, soap, deodorant, anything you could imagine that if you just lost everything you could have. And we've been able in the last 4 or 5 days to give out 600 of those care packages to those who lost their homes.
Well, we're recording this, and it seems to be changing day by day. So when people watch it, we're not sure what happened. Just a couple of days ago, President Trump authorized the bombing of the nuclear sites, 3 different locations in Iran. And, it looks like it was a very clean strike. We're not really here to talk about that, although I want to know your opinion about it and what's happening there in Tel Aviv. And of course, I have a lot more questions too, but I'm just trying to put it into a little bit of context. So tell us what is the attitude there in Tel Aviv? We've all been glued to our TV screens and we get different kinds of reports, but none from Jews for Jesus.
Yeah, so I think in general, support is that with this was a war that Israel didn't choose to go to, that they felt they had to. And I think the Trump joining the war, the general feeling in the Israeli public is very, very grateful and thankful for Trump to stand by Israel during this battle. And we do hope that it will actually lead to a peaceful end to this. And the least deaths. When I was commenting to someone, just who was kind of was that I think that this path may lead to the least deaths on both sides, and bring an end to what we're fighting for, which is keeping a nuclear bomb out of a regime that has sworn to destroy Israel. And they've done it through terrorist organizations for many, many years, and now they're being held accountable for it. And we really hope that we can see a more peaceful area after this.
Well, that's good. And let's talk about that bomb shelter for just a minute. Through the Readers of Charisma and our nonprofit Christian Life Missions, over the years, we've raised quite a bit of money for bomb shelters, most of them in the southern part, just by the Gaza Strip, where when the sirens go off, they have like 20 seconds. And some of the bomb shelters were actually built as bus stops, concrete, steel reinforced bus stops. But, day to day, it's a place to wait for the bus out of the sun. And, but then when there's nowhere else to go, they can kind of huddle there. Other kinds of bomb shelters too. So I understand, and I've actually gone there and visited and seen with my own eyes. When you're in a situation like Israel, you can't take your safety for granted. You've got to prepare. And when I found out that Jews for Jesus had a ministry center there in Tel Aviv, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe in an older building that they had not built a bomb shelter and that you needed one. We had some funds and we were able to build it. And thank God we did. It was when the bombs were not falling, of course. And now you've been able to use it several times.
Yeah, it was, I think it was in 2020, I think in May 2020, when there were a few missiles that fell on Tel Aviv. In my heart, leading the team here on the ground, I was like, I cannot believe we don't have a bomb shelter, because if it gets really, really bad, we're going to need it. And then that's when I was talking to one of my colleagues, Susan, who's a good friend of you. And she's like, I think I know who will support this. And we reached out to Charismatic.
Well, she was right. I've personally been a supporter of Jews for Jesus since the 1980s, which was probably before you were born. And I'm just so impressed with your work. In fact, in just a minute, I want to ask you some questions about Jews for Jesus, but go on with your thought.
Yeah. So, and when we reached out, and I remember some people in the neighborhood were saying, really, you think you'll need a bomb shelter? And I said, look, I never know. We want to be prepared. I couldn't imagine this level of needing it. We really, when we get in here, people take their passports, they take everything they have, because you just don't know where the missile's going to fall. It's no discrimination. It can fall randomly anywhere. And if it does, the complete building in your area and probably in the whole things will be destroyed. And I've been at a few sites. Yesterday I was at a site where an old people's home was completely destroyed. They were all saved because they got into a bomb shelter and nobody was hurt. And that's really what we feel, and why we're very thankful to have this bomb shelter, is because we know something falls here in this area, we'll be protected and we'll be safe. And this building was built in the 50s, before they thought about these things. And even before that, the first floor. So they didn't build a bomb shelter or anything like that, which later on, the government requires you to build a bomb shelter, but they didn't. That didn't happen here. And so we're able to sleep through the night thanks to that donation. So we're very, very grateful for that.
Well, we're glad to help. Bring me and my viewers up to speed a little bit with the work for Jews for Jesus. I had the privilege of knowing Moish Rosen, the founder of Jews for Jesus. I'm very familiar with Sue Perlman's story of how she got involved very, very early, how it kind of grew out of the Jesus movement. But tell us about your work, which is continuing, and how long have you had a center there in Tel Aviv?
So we've had this center here in Tel Aviv for 14 years. And it's really been a hub of culture and events. And it's really been the groundwork where we've built the mission of Jews for Jesus, how we continue to relentlessly pursue God's plan of salvation for the Jewish people in Israel in this time, in a postmodern city, very secular city of Tel Aviv. How do we continue to reach share the gospel here? And from this, we actually, here is where we were a part of one of the first church plants that Jews for Jesus was a part of in Israel, was here in this center. And that's one of the things that we want to see grow in a deeper way throughout Israel. And the way we do, and the way we're envisioning church planting is creating what we would call a third space, like a coffee shop or an art gallery, where many, many people can gather on a regular basis that don't yet know Jesus, and they can come and see what it is to be a follower of Jesus. And so we've opened 2 coffee shops in Tel Aviv, and I can tell you it is the fastest way I've seen seekers come to church for the first time. And just this past weekend, we have a lady who's been coming to services for 5 or 6 weeks. She's still not yet a believer, but she came to one of our events. We did a Holocaust memorial event in one of our coffee shops, and the next day she came to service, and she keeps coming. And this weekend, she got to see my son get baptized in the service, and she was just part of it and experiencing that. We had another animator who was an artist who'd been around for many years, very, very cynical. And during this war, he said, I need something non-cynical, came to service this week. And so that's really what we'd like to see throughout Israel is communities, gospel communities that are used to having non-believers come in so they can share the gospel. And that's kind of our vision for the next 5 years is to see these kind of coffee shops, third spaces, along with a church or congregation growing together around Israel. And that's our prayer and our hope to see a new movement of Jewish followers of Jesus in Israel, sharing the gospel and bringing faith to so many, which is especially needed right now when people are really losing hope.
Well, of course, the war is ongoing. We're hoping for peace. We're hoping it doesn't become another prolonged war for America. And we'll see what happens. But when this is over and I'm able to visit Tel Aviv, what will I see? You're in a very urban area. Describe it to us. Describe your coffee shop. What would be your routine day to day and week to week?
Yeah, so Tel Aviv is a very, very urban, modern city. If you walk out of the center that we're in and you go just down the street, there is a coffee shop on the corner. And it's a very, very small coffee shop that kind of goes along the street. And then on the outside, there's just benches of people hanging out there. And every morning, 8:30, everyone comes down from their apartments that they live in, and they sit there and they talk and they spend the first few hours of the day, hanging out before they need to go to work or do things. And it's just an incredible place to meet people and to be a witness for Jesus here, because people are, I would say, they are open to meet new people, open to new experiences, and they're searching. And that's why it's so, so important for us to have a faithful witness and a faithful presence in this area. And then if you go just a little bit north of where I am right now, of our center to our coffee shop has become one of those places for a neighborhood in the center of Tel Aviv. You come there, it's full of people, full of students, full of freelancers, hanging out there every day and engaging with our staff and getting to hear and getting to know who Jesus is about. So Time Out magazine, which does reviews for restaurants around the world, reviewed our coffee shop. And they put a very, very cheeky title saying, Jesus Christ, you will not believe who the owner of this new coffee shop is. And then in the article, they said the matcha, which is a green tea from Japan that we serve, because we serve high quality coffee and high quality teas. They said the matcha was so good and so cheap that you might just convert to Christianity for it as a cheeky way of engaging with us. But really for us, that was just such a testimony of being faithful and present in this city, that people get to know who we are and what we're about. And that's kind of something that we want to see grow all over Israel. The coffee shop also has a kitchen that we've just set up, and that kitchen will become a humanitarian aid kitchen where people can volunteer and help feed the homeless through that kitchen. And the coffee shop will help offset that. We hope to have witnesses like this working alongside partners and local congregations all around Israel, because we see that as the world becomes more and more digital, these spaces and real urban spaces become a real place of influence, because people are looking for connection. They're looking for hope. And we really feel that we can provide that in a deeper way throughout Israel.
Well, I've got quite a few more questions, but it's a short podcast. And I know that a lot of my viewers would be very pro-Israel, as I am. And they want to know what they can do to help. So, beyond the obvious of praying and maybe donating, although I want you to tell people how they can actually donate to Jews for Jesus if they want to. What can a person, an average Christian, do who loves Israel, who believes in the mission of Jews for Jesus, and they want to get involved somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I think praying is very obvious choice, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and to pray for the salvation of the Jewish people. One of the things I always say to people when they ask me this is I say, if you have a Jewish friend, if you know anyone Jewish, share Jesus with him. He's the greatest hope. That's the greatest gift you can give to us in Jews for Jesus, to be part of our engagement of sharing the gospel. God is not done with the Jewish people, and he's seeking to save them through the Messiah of Israel. And so that's something that I can encourage anyone to do. The second thing I could say is, remember, there's real people on the ground here. It's not just a political thing. This is our lives. This war, this last few years have been a struggle, but Israel has been resilient. And it really, God has given us so many opportunities to share the gospel through it. And if someone does want to specifically support what we're doing right now, is we're trying to continue to provide these essential care packages to those who have lost everything. And it's just such an incredible way to do that when someone's lost everything, to be the first people to show up there. And I was actually surprised nobody was doing it. And we were the first people to show up. And we provided these boxes to people who had nothing. And that's one of the ways that right now you can support our work. You can get onto the website of Jews for Jesus and donate to our war relief effort through that, and support these boxes that we're providing. It's $200 for a couple and $400 for a family for each of one of these boxes.
Well, that's good to know. My first visit to Israel was in 1979, believe it or not long after the Yom Kippur War. And my impression, if I remember correctly, was there were only 100 believers in Jesus who actually come from Israel. You call them Sabras, I believe. A very, very small community. Now it's much, much larger than that. Back then, my impression was that Jews for Jesus was evangelizing in the United States and Europe and maybe some other places, but not Israel. So can you kind of bring us up to date with what's happening? How long has Jews for Jesus actually been in Israel?
So Jews for Jesus has been a legal nonprofit in Israel since 2001. And when we started, we had about 5 or 6 staff that were here, maybe close to 10. And today we have 70 staff serving in Jews for Jesus in our coffee shops, our women's shelter, our online evangelism, and our follow-up. A lot of young interns that serve with us for a year or two as they kind of figure out their life. And so Jews for Jesus in Israel has become the largest work of Jews for Jesus worldwide. And it's really been a place that all around the world, because there's so many Jewish people here, we kind of felt like it's a place where we want to put our emphasis on it. And so I was born in New York, and I moved here when I was 7. And so I have good English because I grew up with it, but most of our staff, they grew up in Israel. They hear, and they've served here just like me, also served in the army, done their things, and they are bringing a faithful witness of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, an Israeli follower of Jesus in today's Israel. And they're doing incredible work and incredibly faithful to that. So it's very, very exciting. And I serve on the executive leadership team of Jews for Jesus, and all around the world, we look at what our young staff here in Israel, and we're very, very proud to be serving with them and leading with them. And they're the ones getting up at 5, 6 a.m., going to these direct missiles where they fell, and serving these people and also sharing the gospel with them. So that's really, really incredible team we have on the ground here.
Well, that's great to know. I know that Israel is a secular society. A lot of Jewish Israelis are not religious at all, but you also have the Orthodox. Some of them actually persecute Christians. In fact, when I was in Israel in the 1980s, while I was there, the Baptist church was actually firebombed. And I don't remember if they caught anybody or not, but they figured it was a hate crime, as we would call it today. What kind of reaction do you get in Israel? Has it softened at all, or do you still get actual persecution?
I mean, I think one of the difficult things you have in Israel is there's a lack of understanding of who we are, and we haven't been around and loud enough. So a lot of people just assume the worst. And there's a lot of people that will spread different kind of bad rumors about what we're all about. And so part of our work is to change that and get people to get used to us being here and who we're about. I just did an interview on Israeli TV, on channel 13, and one of the second or third largest channels in Israel, on their news channel. And they were asking, "What's your title?" And I said, "Well, I'm Israel director, Jews for Jesus." And the newscaster, when he introduced me, he was like, "Oh, the director of the nonprofit, Eli Birnbaum, coming in." But then the title on the bottom said, "Eli Birnbaum, Jews for Jesus director." And for us, we were able to share our witness on live TV and show that we're part of the population. We're responding just like everyone else. And so that's, I think, changing that a lot. We still have groups that their main purpose is to intimidate us from stopping and get people away from it, and they're very, very fearful of it. I do think that they have good intentions. They believe in what they're doing, and I don't harbor any bitter feelings towards them. It can feel very intimidating, and there have been times when it's a lot of events, messianic events, have turned into kind of riots and different things. And what I always say is like, hey, we can sit down, have a disagreement, but we're family. We don't need to fight. And I think that I'm hopeful that we can continue that kind of dialogue. And in fact, one of the people who came here to do this bomb shelter, we had a great conversation. He was a religious Jew. And we had a great conversation about, what we're all about. And so that's kind of changing that one person at a time, or changing it one coffee. When we serve someone a good cup of coffee and he knows it's from us, I think that changes the reality and softens a lot of people towards our faith. I grew up here. This is my country. This is my home. I couldn't live anywhere else. I couldn't imagine being rejected by my society. So when I do feel that kind of rejection, I say, hey, we're together. I love this country, and I've served in the military. I've served here my whole life. And I'm staying here because I believe in this country, but I believe in something greater than this country. And that is the Messiah of Israel, who will come back to Israel. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm raising my children here, and raising them to be witnesses, but also great Israeli citizens. And so that's, I think, the reality of what we're looking at. I'm hopeful that one day we can sit down with a rabbi and pick through our disagreements in a civil way, and they could come to see how we view scripture in a deeper way, how we view the prophecies that they all point to the Messiah, Yeshua.
Well, Eli, I appreciate you updating us. There's so much going on in Israel right now. It's changing day to day, as I said. We have 1 minute. I want to give you the last word and tell people again how they can support Jews for Jesus and what you're doing there in Tel Aviv.
So if you would, thank you so much for having me on here. This has been an incredible to share what's happening on in Israel. It's so touching to know that people care about the people of Israel. But I think the best way to care for the people of Israel is to help them hear about Jesus. And that's why I want to encourage you. Can you support us in this task, in this mission to bring the Messiah, Yeshua, to the people of Israel? And you can do that by supporting Jews for Jesus. Thank you so much.
I want to thank Eli Birnbaum of Jews for Jesus to take time to be on my podcast from a bomb shelter. Can you believe how things are changing? Even since we recorded this, the ceasefires come, and we need to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and hope that there is really peace. But there's going to continue to be some kind of conflict or tension. There's a lot of needs in Israel. I believe the Jews for Jesus is doing a very good work. I mentioned the fact that I have personally supported Jews for Jesus since the late 1980s, believe it or not. I knew, as I mentioned in the podcast, I knew the founder, Moish Rosen. I know Sue Perlman very well. And I have so much respect for what they do. And that's why I wanted to feature them and also encourage you to reach out for Jews for Jesus. They have a lot of needs. I encourage you. I don't do this very often. And really, there are very few ministries that I've supported as long as I had Jews for Jesus, but I feel it's important. I'd also like to encourage you to subscribe to the Strang Report. If you're interested in this kind of content, then you need to hit the subscribe button. You need to hit the little bell so you're notified when we're on every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And share it with other people, because I think it's important that others have an opportunity to see the kind of content we have, where we discuss spirit-led living, where we discuss the culture wars and the things that are happening. Even discussing the news is our way of trying to proclaim Jesus to the world. And we just really appreciate for you and your partnership in all that we do here at Charisma Media. Thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in again. Be sure to subscribe. That's very important. I don't want to take it lightly. Be sure to subscribe. Hit the little bell. It seems that when I promote it as I am now, we get a lot of subscriptions. If I don't mention it, we don't get quite so many. So I guess that's just basically human nature. It's a lot of fun doing this. The response that I get, send me emails, send us comments. We're very interested in what you think about the Strang Report. Again, thanks for watching, and God bless you.